corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museums will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
Good evening, everybody. It's Sunday. We are not your normal hosts. This is Steve and Jake. We're taking over.
Yes, we are. We got a good show planned for you tonight. How's your day been, Steven?
Very good. I went to work today, broke a couple things and, came home, relaxed a little bit, and here we are to hang out and, chat.
Good deal. Hey, you want to introduce our guest, or you want me to run through a short bio? Then I'll let you do the introduction.
Why don't you run through the short bio there? Go ahead.
All right. Our guest tonight is a podcast host, and he's the podcast host of Oscar Mike Radio. They've done over 350 shows. His name is Travis Partington, former Marine, a Hawk Missile Systems guy. And without any further ado, let's get him on here.
Good evening, Travis. How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen. What a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Jake
coming
just
on.
gave a little bit of rundown of you and who you are and what you do. If you want to just add to that, that would be fantastic, my friend.
Sure. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served from 95 to 99. I was a Hawk Missile Systems operator. Fancy way of saying that we blew stuff out of the sky. It was a lot of fun. In 2016, I started my podcast, my show, Oscar Mike Radio. Next week will be my June 13th is my 400th show. I turned 8 officially in July, and Oscar Mike Radio is about stories about our veterans, about active duty people who are serving now, and then civilians who either have experienced loss from military families or who work hard to support the veterans and active duty people who served our country.
Awesome.
Congratulations on that.
So, now, was you a regular Hawk or an iHawk guy?
I don't remember iHawk, so I had to say Hawk.
Okay. All right.
We had the high power. We had the Quar. We didn't have they had just retired the pulse radar, and we were the last battalion before the Army took over with Patriot.
Okay. All right. I remember that system. We test fired, or actually we fired Hawks against a lot of systems that they were testing when I was at White Sands Missile Range.
Yep.
So we did that quite a bit. Great having you on here tonight. And you say you're fixing to hit 400, huh?
Yes, sir.
I was an NCO. Don't call me sir, please.
All right. Just old habits die hard.
Oh, I know they do. I have not had the privilege of listening to Oscar Mike Radio. Won't you tell our listeners why everybody should give Oscar Mike Radio a try?
Sure. Well, maybe you don't know anything about the military and want to learn more. Maybe you're a veteran who's going through some hard times. My hard times is why I started Oscar Mike Radio, and you want to hear from people who dealt with their own challenges, been on the abyss, been in the valley of the shadow of the death, and found their way out. Maybe you're an artist, a musician, a business owner, or a nonprofit, and you want to understand the kind of people that run these successfully. You're going to come across these and more in Oscar Mike Radio and learn from them, learn their stories, learn what they did, learn what didn't work, what works. And then, hopefully it will, fuel your drive and fill your tank to meet life's challenges.
Okay. I'm actually going to put that on my to-do list to get on there and check out some of your episodes. Now, are you live or are they taped episodes? Can people call in? Is it a live chat?
These are recorded. I do live sometimes, but the majority of my shows are pre-records.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Thank you. What do you got, Stephen? You got any questions?
Well, no, I don't. I figured you'd have all the questions because you are the military man.
Oh, well, what's something you don't know about the military that you might want to know?
Oh, that would be everything. And, you're not going to teach me that all in one night.
Now, hey, Travis, little inter-service rivalry here. I got to ask you while you're on here.
Sure.
What's your favorite flavor of color crayon?
Oh, God. First of all, and when I was in the Marine Corps, the crayons weren't even out. That's some marketing thing from Crayola. That is irrelevant to me. And I was an Air Wing Marine, so,
okay,
that's doubly irrelevant. I like the color red. I like the color black. Well, it's actually black's not a color, but, That's it. I don't know where that came from, and I really couldn't care.
I think it's mostly an internet thing, and it's funny when my brother was interviewing a gentleman a few weeks ago. He asked him, and he's like, "Oh, green, because green just hits different," and I nearly fell off my chair. I'm like, some people take that really serious, and you like yourself, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
I have a brother-in-law and a couple nephews that are former Marines, and I like to razz them about that all the time. And of course, they razz me about, when I become a real man, I can join the Marine Corps. So, now it said that you're originally from the Midwest and then moved to the South.
Yes.
What in your growing up, did you have family members that were in the Corps, or did you just know that's what you wanted to do?
Well, no, not really. My grandfather served in World War II, both of them. And then one of my grandfathers worked for the U.S. Air Force at Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was a tough old bastard growing up with. He demanded a lot out of his grandkids, so we learned to toe the line real quick. No, and the thing is, Shreveport Bossier is an Air Force town. It's where the Strategic Air Command is. Yeah. I'd go to the air show and see that, but I started going to the library and reading about Marine stuff, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then, like a lot of guys, you're bouncing around. You think college is too tough, studying's too tough, so you'll do something easy. And I said, college is too tough. I'll join the Marine Corps. That's a good idea. That'll be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That's really smart. But it definitely worked out for me, and that's what I did.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service.
Being a great American.
Hey, it's not everybody can do it, and we applaud the ones that can and do.
Yeah, sure. So, this whole thing, my Marine Corps service was short because when I got to Hawk School, they told us it was being replaced by the Army's Patriot system, and the Marine Corps wasn't fooling around. And I know how those tankers feel in the Marine Corps, and the scout snipers who, with a stroke of a pen, your entire training, promotion path, career path is gone. And I was banged up, I was hurt, and I could either go to be a cook or a cannon cocker, or get out and re-enlist and try to do something else. And I'm like, it's just not for me. But it's funny, as I go through life, there's so much that I got out of that 4-year time span that has really benefited me. So, the Marine Corps does some odd things now, in my view, but overall, it's still the same Marine Corps. I still think it's a good thing to be a part of.
I'm thinking the training back then is what changed your outlook on things, because a friend of mine went into training to become a Marine, and he backed out because it beat the hell out of him. He wound up being a New York City police officer, which I think is crazy in itself, but he could not make it through the Marine training. So I'm sure they work you to become a Marine. So that training alone in the 3-4 years, that would definitely be enough here.
It's something else looking back, at the time, you're not really thinking about it. You're just trying to get through each day. But, looking back, and that's one of the things. You can deal with adversity, quite well, because you're used to dealing with adversity and, pain and suffering, all that good stuff. But, no, it was a good time for me. I like the Hawk MOS. Air defense gets, ribbed on a lot by the other services and the Marine Corps, as being defensive. But, I tell people, hey, in Ukraine right now, they sure are glad they have those. And there's Hawk batteries in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. A lot of the Europeans still use Hawk. Raytheon's posting for Hawk jobs all the time. And it's because it's become a very efficient system. As I'm sure Jake, to move a Hawk system from point A to point B was, 20, 30 trucks, massive generator banks, power, the whole 9 yards. And now they've got it to where, the whole thing is almost, except for the missiles, Humvee mounted. You can, put the battery command post, the QAR, the continuous actually, oh my God, the continuous wave acquisition radar on a Humvee type vehicle, and the tracking radar on a vehicle, and you've just reduced your footprint drastically. So
yeah, and is the missile itself still on a wheeled launch
Yes.
wheeled launch rail?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can hook all that stuff together and just go.
It's gotten real efficient, and so it's really cool to see the system still alive and well doing its job.
And I'm in a job now that deals with air defense, especially with all the UAS troubles that we're having. And yeah, air defense is becoming a thing again. And I think it's going to be here for a while.
Well, I mean, so let's talk about this, right? People are like, well, it can't shoot down the F-35 and some of the fifth generation fighters. That missile's old. I'm like, well, you don't. What's the risk now is not so much those, which are dangerous airplanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the people who figure out how to get $300 drones to go in mass at a target, where you're going to need a system like that to find them and blow a lot of them up at the same time. I mean, to your point, air defense is not going anywhere. You're going to have. It's going to be smaller, which is weird. It's not taking down big, huge targets anymore. It's finding 20 drones flying at a air traffic control tower, a fuel depot, a bridge. I mean, the Baltimore bridge thing should be a wake up call to just how vulnerable we are.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
My wife's cousin was a Marine F-18 pilot, and when he retired, he was sitting in a hut flying drones because of the same controls as an F-18. He did that for a couple of years, and just sitting in the middle of nowhere in the hut, surveilling areas and taking care of business that way. And that's what a lot of it's going to become more and more now. I'm guessing.
Well, it's just, I don't know, man. An F-35 is, almost 150 million now. And you can't, I mean, it's going to get to a point where you just can't, if I can build a fleet of drones for 10 million versus 150 million for one aircraft, the cheaper option is going to weigh out. I mean, that's what we did in World War II. Our planes were not as good as the German planes or the Japanese planes. We just had more of them because they were cheaper, cruder, if you will, but could take a beating. That's the only thing we had. The Russian T-34 tank wasn't the best tank on the battlefield compared to the Sherman and German tanks. The Russians just made a ton of them because they were cheap and effective.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Look at how many of them showed up at the Battle of Kursk.
Right. Germans weren't expecting that.
No, they weren't. So on Oscar Mike Radio.
Yep.
You say you do a few live shows, and now can people call in or
no? I mean,
text in questions, or how do you?
So for all my shows, because I record the show, then I edit it, and then I get it. My post production partner Keith Hayes, Assist One Productions, will put his coat of paint on it, and then I'll stage it for streaming. Okay. During the stream, I'm in the chatting with people, as if I'm actually there. When I do a live, it's the same thing. You can either join me live. I'll have a link. You can join me live or whatever. I haven't gotten to the phone thing yet. I'm just finding out that this younger generation would just prefer to text or chat on their phones than to talk on a phone. And
my brother forever has his phone number up there, and I think somebody tried calling once and it didn't work. It's also chat that we post questions and everything. It's a lot easier that way.
So people will get on their phone if they're watching the stream on Facebook or YouTube and chat with you, no problem. They're not as open to sitting there, punching a number in and trying to, and then you got hey, turn down your volume. Hey, I'm hearing two of you. Just turn on. Right, you don't want that either. So that's why I don't do it. It's just a preference thing of mine.
that's like my wife. She can't listen to the show here in the house because she watches on YouTube, and there's about a 3-second lag, and she hears me talking here in the kitchen, and it messes up her watching in the living room.
Well, it's the same thing when I go on YouTube while we're doing this now. There's a lag, and if I have the volume up, there's like like mumbling back and forth 2 different times. But I have to watch the chat there, make sure nothing happens all at the same time.
So, what are the? How did you get started in podcasting? You said that you did it, to kind of help yourself. Did you do any research on it, or did you just dive in and start doing it?
So, oh my God, it's hard to believe. Like 13 years ago, I was going through a really bad personal situation in my life. I was going through a divorce, which was very, very bad. I didn't want to go through the divorce, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing some guest hosting. A couple of years later, I was doing some guest hosting at WVBF AM 1530 in Taunton, Massachusetts. And the guys I were with, they were South Shore News and Views at the time. Like, you could really do this if you spent some time on it. And as you can imagine, I said, how much is an hour of airtime on AM radio? Well, that's $500 an hour. And, I want, you got to pay it, a month at a time. Since you're new, I'd want 3 months up front. And I'm like, okay, I don't have $6,000 laying around, and I don't have sponsors that are going to write me a check like that. So what do I do next? And then, I'd heard about podcasting. It was very different than it is now. A lot more technical, a lot more involved trying to get certain things to work right. And I met this guy named Keith Hayes at the Dale Dorman Media Day at a local college. And he's talking about podcasting. I'm like, I can do that. So that was in April of 2016. And, I pitched my idea to him. I'd kind of had the shield up there. I'd kind of had that already done. I had the mission statement, if you will, done. I just didn't know how to put it together. So from April till June, we worked on the setup and format. And then in July, I think July 22nd, I recorded my first show. And it's terrible. But, I did it right. And then, it took me a good 30 to 40 shows to start getting a feel for how to make this work. Again, technology was very, different back then. It was very unforgiving. You had to understand how sound worked and the programs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of jealous now, man. You can get on, Amazon, and for about, $200, have yourself a pretty sweet system that takes all the guesswork out that you used to have to dial in manually. But that is to say that, that was back then, and so I started doing it, and I started getting a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of purpose out of doing it. It was really great talking to other veterans who had gone through their own struggles and understanding, what they did to get through their struggles. It was great talking to people who, owned businesses, who were veterans who had made that transition, were transitioning to being musicians or artists or authors or coaches or whatever, because all of us in the military we join the military, we change, we get out of the military, and we have to transition to something else again. And,
Yes.
a lot of my friends don't do that. A lot of my friends are, they graduated, became teachers, bankers, doctors, whatever. And that's pretty much what they've done since they got out of college. Well, a lot of us veterans have to do that 2, maybe 3 times to, make this work. So being able to talk about that in a really engaging way, with no real time limit, and, in a space where people can be themselves, gave me a lot of satisfaction, a lot of purpose, and a sense of accomplishment.
Cool. And, the way I look at it, and Rich and Steven pretty much look at it the same way. If getting on here and talking about problems that bug us, or problems we've had coming out of the military or in life in general, if we can help one person per show not decide to end all their problems with a with a gunshot or whatever. If we can stop one person from doing that, we have fulfilled our purpose for that show.
I mean, absolutely. That's the purpose for me. I'm like, if one person saves their own life, or makes change in their life where they can help others, or take care of their family, then all this work is worth it. Regardless if I get one person listening or a million, doesn't matter. I just want the one.
Yes. So, what's the most interesting guest you've ever had on there?
Oh my, I've had a lot of them. I think they're all interesting, right? But if I had to say what's the most interesting, I'd have to say that it is, believe it or not, it's the Gold Star family members, by far. Especially the Gold Star children.
Okay.
Because a lot of times in a Gold Star situation, you hear from the spouse, you'll hear from the parents. And I understand why the children are left largely alone. I mean, people don't want their teenager talking about this sensitive issue. But you talk to a couple of them. I've gotten to talk to a couple of them, and I realize that, children pay a price too. And, it's incumbent on us to understand that. And if we can offer comfort to that child, whether they're, that child is, 12 years old or 22 years old or even 32 years old, there's still a keen sense of loss that, you just can't measure, right? So to be able to talk with somebody like that and understand where they're coming from and why they wrote about their parents' story, or why they're created their nonprofit to advocate, is not only interesting, but it's also just a real humbling privilege and honor to be able to do so.
Yes. We talked to a Gold Star child a couple weeks ago who had just, I think it was the Folds of Honor scholarship that she got. And
wow.
She was amazing. What this kid's been through, and to have the attitude that she's got. And it was amazing to see the smile on that young lady's face when she was talking to us.
The good that was happening for her with the scholarship going to college and being a spokesperson and pushing on with life. It was a great interview.
Yeah. And I think when she, and I think that's how she became the spokesperson. I think they read her essay or whatever she wrote. And it's like, hey, let's put this young lady to work. And she was amazing.
Wow.
She was amazing.
And so you have also 2 audiobooks. Are you working on any more?
Maybe I misread that. I'm working on an audiobook now, but I'm writing.
Oh, okay.
I'm writing 2 stories right now. I'm working on 2 stories right now. I've done some other writing before, so that's what I'm doing right now. Audiobooks, I need a couple pieces of software to make that work for me. I also need time, so it's in the works.
That's good. You're keeping busy. And it says, my brother also wrote, you're on the bio, said that you enjoy motorcycles. What kind of bike you got?
I've got a 2007 Yamaha Stratoliner, the midnight one, the big Yamaha's Big V twin. And,
old school.
Yeah, I love it. I do love it. Been a great source of enjoyment and comfort for me.
I always
Get out and open it up.
Yeah.
I've got a brother-in-law who rides a Harley Davidson.
All right.
And he watches all these shows and stuff, these biker shows and everything. And he says, you know what? He said, Harley's a good bike. But he said, these shows with all these bikers and something, they always leave something out. And I said, well, what's that? And he says, it's the 2 or 3 of them broke down alongside the highway that have to be trailered to wherever they're going. And Nothing against them. I do not ride anymore myself, but yeah, I don't see very many of the other ones broke down alongside the highway, except for maybe a flat tire.
Flat tires are going to have them. It was funny. One of my buddies was making fun of my bike. It's a Japanese bike, metric. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And he just had his new Harley Fat Boy, and he's bragging to me. And all of a sudden, he's on the side of the road, and his shifter lever on his brand new Fat Boy literally fell off. And he couldn't shift it. And we had to go to Ace Hardware and thread get a heavy enough bolt that we could make a shifter lever for it. We had to make a shifter lever and a peg for it so he could shift it and get it home. And I said, I don't want to ever hear a word about my motorcycle ever again. I said, I rode my 93 Honda Shadow from Yuma, Arizona to Boston, and it didn't even cough once. So I don't want to hear another word about Japanese motorcycles. And to his credit, he never did. He couldn't live that one down.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, what's in the future for you?
What's in the future?
Yeah.
Well, I think what's going to happen in the future is I'm coming to the realization that I've got like shows booked out to like October, almost November of this year. So whether I want to admit it or not, I've either got to really slow things down somehow, which I'm not really a fan of doing. You don't want to slow momentum ever, right?
Yeah.
Or I've got to consider doing a second day of the show. You get a request or two every week, and your show's weekly show, it starts adding up, and some people are cool with it, but it's like, oh wow, I mean, you're wanting to talk about your book release in July, and I can't get you in until the end of September, and I get it, but it's raising a very good problem to have. So I've either got to do another show or figure out a way to maybe be picky, but I don't like doing that either, because if you're trying to move what you're doing forward and you think that talking to me is going to help you do that, I hate to turn you down, but it's one or the other at this point. Either I've got to start turning people away, or I've got to be more available. It's a very interesting situation I'm in.
Well, maybe it's time to step it up.
For sure.
I kind of like the way that Rich does things live, and and I know 3 shows a week is rough on him, but
which is why he threw us into the mix, break it up so he gets a day off.
Yeah.
Basically, we were thrown into the mix. We went from sitting in the chat room to being here on the screen saying, "Hey, how you doing?"
Hey,
you guys.
Look, I'm a podcast host now.
Well, that is the other option too, is to maybe do one record and one live. I've done several lives before. I'm very comfortable doing it, but it's the whole preparation thing that and other things that go along with it. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think to your point, Jake, excuse me, I'm going to have to make a decision, either step my game up or hold the throttle steady, and I'm kind of like an all gas no brakes kind of guy. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting.
Well, hey, we're looking forward to it. So I guess 5 years from now, you might be doing 3 shows a week.
It's conceivable. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and I'm hoping that if I'm to that point, it can be. We can start talking. Maybe trying to get on the radio or the Armed Forces Network or something like that, and figure it out.
Well, when you're the next Joe Rogan, look us up.
Well, I just people say that, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be Joe. I'm kind of envious sometimes of what he's done. I'm sure he's worked very hard to get there, but to me, I just want to know that my show, your show, has helped one person, and if what we're doing saves one life, then man, it's something else, because suicide comes with a cost. that people don't
Yes,
count very
yes,
often.
it does. And I've had to talk to a few people, and it's like, look, man, you're not hurting you.
No.
If you could still be around and see all the people that you're affecting when you do this, all the people that you don't think love you, all the people that you don't think give a damn, you are sadly mistaken. That you will impact people, and it won't be good.
No, it never is. And so that's what I want more than anything else. And, I think, having conversations like this is just proof that, in a way it's working. And if fame comes or notoriety comes, or I get, 1 million downloads, great. But, right now I'm just, it's, 400 is staged, 401's coming up, and I've got 402 almost ready to go for the next week. It's just one after the other, and that's how I do it.
Good deal.
And it's worked this long, so you just keep doing it that way for now until you move, until you're ready to move up. Move up.
Right.
Move around.
Right.
You've been doing this for years now, so.
And you're right, Stephen. It might be where, okay, we like, now I'm ready. I don't think I'm quite ready just yet, but I think, by the end of the summer, I'm going to make a choice. I would say by 2025, I'm either going to be doing 2 shows or just keep it at, 1, and then really kind of, put it out there that, hey, I don't know, but I've got some time, and I'll make the right choice when the time comes.
Exactly.
Good deal. Well, hey,
you haven't gone anywhere yet. You're not going anywhere soon. It's either going to go up or it's going to stay where it is, and it's still going to be good. So that's all that matters.
Absolutely, that's truth.
So if somebody is going to branch out onto their own and go into podcasting, Stephen, I'm not getting any ideas. I'm happy right here. But for our listeners out there, what's 3 things that you think are important before you get into it?
So I think the why has to be answered very clearly. And I tell people, I want to do a podcast. Well, why? Well, I said, okay, come back and talk to me when you've gotten, 3 pages double-sided done of why you think your podcast needs to be done. I'm like, well, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to minimize what you're doing. But if you can't articulate the why you're doing it, it's going to be over before you even get going. And because it gets hard real quick. So you have to have the why fully explained to yourself. And I also tell you to do that because if you can explain the why to yourself, it's much easier to explain to somebody else, the reason that you're doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the why is important. And then, some people want to go out and spend all this. I'm knowing guys who've gotten home refinance loans, home equity lines of credit to build their in-house podcast studio. I'm like, do not do that. Do not do that. Do not buy, 200 t-shirts. Do not buy coins. Do not do any of that. Focus instead on your top that you're going to talk about, and make sure that, you can talk about in a way that means something to you. Because if you're talking about, I don't care what it is, apples, Beanie Babies, fishing, my 68 fastback Mustang, just or 68 Mercury Cougar. Oh my God, right? if you right, because if you can talk about something that you really care about and that means something to you, it's going to come across to people who listen to you that, hey, this person really cares about it, instead of the person who's just said, you know what, ChatGTP told me these top 10 categories are what podcasters will listen to. No, talk about your subject in a real authentic way. That's number 2. And then number 3 is, I'll tell people, like, it's going to be hard. So the average podcast lasts about 32 episodes according to Apple Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
32. And then, pivot off that. the number of people that put out a show once a week is very, 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 very small. So you have to have fun and understand it's going to be hard until you get your, some reps in and understand the process. And if you can stick with it, it becomes rewarding. But if you're not willing to embrace the suffering or the hardness or the uncomfortable in learning and growing, then you shouldn't do it, because you won't get anywhere and you weren't really into it for the right reason anyway.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I think we've done this now, Jake and I, for 2 months now, maybe 10 different episodes. The best conversation we had with somebody was a guy who did collectibles, because it wasn't military. It was something I understood, and I can actually ask questions, where normally Jake will run the show because he knows the military aspect of it. Me, I work retail. I'm a 55-year-old man with a 5-year-old mentality that collects toy trucks. When the guy came on talking about collectibles, I was like, I'm in the house. I'm in this conversation, and it was like I'm in heaven. You have to be that's the part you have to be comfortable with. I'm getting more comfortable speaking with people like you and other military people, but I don't know the lingo most of the time, where Jake and Rich will jump in and they'll say, okay, this is what we're actually talking about today.
Nice.
Well, I've stuck your link up across the bottom, and I just want to tell everybody, hey, check out Oscar Mike Radio at www.oscarmikeradio.com, and check out Travis's podcast, and like and subscribe when you get on there.
Now, are you on Facebook? Or are you on Spotify? What do you want?
I'm on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the normal podcast channels. So just look for Oscar Mike Radio, look for my smiling face, and then you found X marks the spot.
See, as you watch the opening, they say two retired vets and a wife. Me and Jake aren't even in there, so we just appear on the screen. We'll get to the Misfit Nation, beginning and ending sooner or later.
No problem.
Well, hey, Travis, we've covered everything tonight, from setting up Hawk missile systems to your time in the Marine Corps, and doing the podcast. And I kind of like having a podcaster come on. Our mission is essentially the same, taking veterans who are seeing the darkness and hopefully helping to pull them out of the darkness.
Well, we go further together, so it's a big sandbox, a lot of space to play in, a lot of toys to use. So I appreciate what you all are doing, and certainly glad I could come on and talk with you all. If you don't reach them, we try to reach them. Then there's 10 other podcasts out there that are trying to reach them. So eventually we'll all get our hands together and we'll all be taking care of people. So maybe before too long, this will catch on. Folks will listen. Or if somebody's listening out there and somebody's having trouble, get them that number, 988, take option 1. If you're seeing the darkness, if you're on here and you have my phone number, because I know I've probably got some friends and family that might be listening, you need to talk, you call me. I'm always here to listen. Travis, enjoyed the chat this evening, brother. Hey, great meeting you too. I really appreciate you stepping in like this, and I had a great time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for taking time out of your day to talk to us. Thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to chat with us. We really appreciate it. You guys take care. You too. Have a good night. Bye.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.